right, witches, buckle up because we got a controversial one to talk about today. Probably the most controversial thing I've talked about on this podcast to date. And I don't care. I'm not afraid of backlash or differing opinions. And also, you're not going to get a cut and dry answer from me, which also has the potential to piss you off. So, like I said, buckle up and let's talk about it. Hey, I'm Steph Rubio, your go to for no nonsense chit chat on growing a business and life that you actually love. Around here, we're rooted in who we are, even if we're still learning to love her, getting clear on where we want to go, and we're relentless in our pursuit to get there. We get into the nitty gritty of growth in life and in business, money, identity, boundaries, healing, leadership, parenting, partners, and all the messy bits in between. If you're ready to grow on your own terms, laugh a lot, possibly cry a little, maybe laugh until we cry if we're lucky, then hit subscribe and let's get into it. This is Rooted and Relentless. Grab your notepad and hold on to your tits. This one's for you. A couple of weeks ago, I was asked how I feel about hiring offshore support, virtual assistants, things like that for the operations and the back end of your business as you're trying to scale and you need someone to step in and help you with some things. When you outsource offshore, you can get it for hella cheap, like dollars an hour. So obviously, if you're paying dollars an hour over 20, 30, 40, $50 an hour to a US based virtual assistant, there's a huge margin there for you and big scaling potential, right? So I was specifically asked how I feel about this because I have a background in operations. So I've made money on that type of work before. And I support a lot of these people via coaching, strategy, scaling their own businesses now in consulting. A lot of VAs that have transitioned into online business management, into more of a strategic role, into more project management, or niched into things like podcast development and stuff like that. And I'm extremely passionate about helping women live without limits. That's quite literally my mission, is to live without limits and help other women do the same. So here's my answer to that question, because I think people ask it and expect me to be like, absolutely not. And that might be my gut reaction because, one might think, okay, so how can you stand for women's empowerment and everyone gets a seat at the table and you go find the cheapest option you can and don't support the women around you, in your communities and stuff like that. But for me, you got to go deeper than that because I don't think that women empowerment has boundary lines. I don't think that I'm not going to make this political, but all of the boundary lines in this world were made up. I mean, obviously, the land meets the ocean at some point, and that's a very real boundary line. But everything else was made up. Every boundary line, every country. The only place that there's an actual freaking line is on a map that we look at, right? Not when you walk out and you find another country and you walk to that border line. There's not a line. So, how can I say that only the women in the country I work at deserve, to make a living wage? It just so happens that a living wage in a different country is different than a living wage in the country that I live in, right? So that's the first nuance that I look at with it. The second component is that I studied globalization when I got my business management degree a couple of years ago. So I understand a little bit more intimately, if you've never researched or studied something like this, kind of what I was just describing. And a lot of times the companies that have gotten flack for this have been bigger name companies like Nike. That might be a story that you remember when they were brought under fire because they were offshore outsourcing a ton of like factory work and paying people cents on the dollar. But when you look into this as like a real case study, you realize that pulling that out of there, whether someone makes $2 or $5 an hour, that person, that kid, that child labor, it's a different ethical issue in different countries than it may be to us. Because again, made up rules, what feels right to one culture may not feel right to the other. And if you take that child out or that person making $2 or $5 an hour, that money is actually going to support them and their family and their village and their country and their home, etc. So while yes, it is less, globalization actually doesn't. It's global. E-commerce is global now. So that is just a reality. It's a fact. And I don't think that only women and people in certain countries deserve empowerment different than others. But for me, it begs the question, if that is really what you care about, what you stand for, and they cost $25 in this country, you're going there just to pay them 5. And while yes, that may be a living wage, but what if you could give them $25 an hour and seriously change their life? So again, it's a back and forth for me. It's this conversation worth having for sure. And I don't think there's a flat right and wrong answer, at least not at the surface when people like at the surface when people initially have that reaction. I think there's definitely more nuance to the conversation. And I truly believe that globalization is what we're moving towards. It's not like a belief, that's what's happening until you have people come in and have tariffs wars and try to make it about your country again. But I think we're one world and not just one country. However, for me, I can tell you that I go back and forth on that. Like, I just explained to you my feelings, my thought process on it. But when it comes to me paying someone, I will not pay offshore for a couple of dollars. I will be paying women who are in my community where the money they spend goes back to the community and the country where that benefits me and my family, and we grow and we prosper. And it goes into the roads we drive on and on like that. And because I do work with these women and I do coach them how to charge based on the value that they offer and to make a living wage. And it would feel hypocritical to me then to coach them through that and then go and find someone that's way, way, way cheaper and not give them the opportunity then to work with me. I do take issue with if you're getting richer off of other people's poverty. If this offshore and you're not sure of their living conditions or anything like that, and they are in severe poverty and you're paying a minimum rate which keeps, life afloat but barely. As you continue to get richer and again stand out in women's empowerment and things like that, I do take issue with that. And if you're saving so much on margin, because again, I'm talking $2, $3, $5 is what I've seen before paying offshore prices like this. When I know that VA rates start around 25. So I'm just going to keep talking on like those numbers, right? So with that 20 extra dollars, is that just going back into your business and padding your pockets and making you richer? Or are you using that margin to do good in the community that you live in for the people that you surround yourself with and what you stand for? Are you using that margin to do what you say your mission is? Is it helping you reach more people and actually uplift them and make money? Those are kind of questions that run through my head. So I don't think there's a cut and dry answer. Like I said multiple times, I know that there's nuance to it. It's not a surface level answer like you would think. I stand firm in that I don't think that boundary lines or countries or people in those deserve one thing over the other. And I don't think that's a conversation a lot of people are willing to have until it does affect them not being paid, until service providers realize they are losing opportunity and money to other countries, then it seems like a problem. But when it comes to, I don't know, immigration and letting people come here to have a better life for different reasons, then we don't want to have the conversation. So that's it. I'm not making it political. I'm just saying check yourself, check your values, and make sure you're living by them and that you're giving every conversation an opinion thought before you just go with your gut reaction. I would really be curious of your thoughts. It's a conversation I would love to have if you can do so respectfully. I mean, I actually don't care because I'll tell you to fuck right off. But I mean, if we're going to do it publicly. So you can slide into my DMs if you want to have it privately. Let me know your thoughts. Truly, no judgment. I'm open to the conversation. I think there's more depth and layer to it than just there's a right or wrong answer. You can find me on Instagram at virtually_Steph Rubio. Let me know what your thoughts are. And again, if you can do so respectfully, I welcome everyone to have this as an open conversation, because I also am not a fan of hiding, showing up and saying one thing and then doing a different thing behind the curtains. We all talk about building our own tables and everyone gets a seat at our table. And I feel like that honors that. You can have a seat at my table, whether you make $25 an hour or you make $5 an hour. But then if you're coaching women to charge that $100 an hour and you would never pay them that, I don't know. What are your thoughts? I would love to hear them. Well, that's a wrap on this episode of Rooted and Relentless. If it made you laugh, nod along, or grab that cute little notebook of yours and scribble something down, please hit me with the SSR, subscribe, share, and review, as in leave a review. Don't forget to tag me on Instagram at virtually_Steph Rubio and tell me what you're reading this week. Seriously, I live for a good book moment. Thanks for hanging. Bye.